Welcome to the channel Rare Coin Finder, and today, we are about to take you on a journey that will completely change the way you look at the loose change sitting in your drawer, your old coin jar, or even that forgotten piggy bank collecting dust on a shelf somewhere, because what we are revealing today is not just about coins. It is about life-changing moments, about ordinary people stumbling upon extraordinary treasures, about small pieces of metal that carry the weight of history, mystery, and millions of dollars in value. And the coin we are starting with today, the 1977 Jefferson Nickel, is one of those coins that sounds so simple, so ordinary, so completely unremarkable on the surface, that most people would spend it on a gumball without a second thought. But here is the part that will make your jaw drop, because this coin, this tiny 5-cent piece from 1977, has been valued at an absolutely staggering $81 million. And yes, you heard that correctly, $81 million for a nickel, a coin that was designed to be worth 5 cents. A coin that millions of Americans carried in their pockets, tossed into tip jars or lost between couch cushions, and yet here we are, talking about a version of this coin that collectors around the world would pay a fortune beyond imagination to own. Now, before we go any further, I want you to do something. I want you to stay with us until the very end of this video, because after the 1977 Jefferson Nickel, we have 2 more coins coming your way, and I promise you, each one is more jaw-dropping than the last. The stories get wilder, the values get higher, and the details get more unbelievable. So do not touch that back button, do not skip ahead, because every single second of this video is worth your time, and trust me, by the time we are done, you will be rushing to check every coin you own. Now, let us go back to 1977, a year that was buzzing with energy, a time when America was still finding its footing after a turbulent decade. Disco music was filling the airwaves, Star Wars was about to change cinema forever, and the United States Mint was hard at work producing billions of coins to keep the nation's economy running smoothly. The Jefferson Nickel had been a staple of American currency since 1938, designed by the brilliant Felix Schlag, featuring the stoic and dignified portrait of Thomas Jefferson on the obverse and his iconic Virginia estate, Monticello, on the reverse. And by 1977, the design was well established, the minting process was routine, and hundreds of millions of these nickels were rolling off the presses at facilities in Philadelphia and Denver every single day. But here is where the story gets dangerous, where it gets thrilling, because somewhere in that massive, relentless production process, something went wrong, or perhaps something went so extraordinarily right that it created a coin unlike any other that had ever existed before, a coin that broke the rules, that defied expectations, that carried within its metal a secret that would not be discovered for years, maybe even decades, after it left the mint. You see, the 1977 Jefferson Nickel that commands a value of $81 million is not your average nickel, not by any stretch of the imagination, because what makes this coin so incredibly rare, so devastatingly valuable, is a combination of factors that collectors spend their entire lives chasing. And the first is the error, the magnificent, beautiful, heart-stopping minting error that set this coin apart from every other nickel produced that year. Imagine the minting press, this enormous, powerful machine, stamping out coins at a rate of hundreds per minute, and in one extraordinary moment the dies shift, or the planchet feeds incorrectly, or the strike pressure falls outside the normal range, and the result is a coin that bears the marks of that imperfection in a way that is visible, dramatic, and absolutely irreplaceable, because no 2 minting errors are ever exactly alike, and when an error is this significant, this visually stunning, it transforms a 5-cent coin into a one-of-a-kind artifact that belongs in the same conversation as the world's greatest numismatic treasures. The 1977 Jefferson Nickel in question may carry a double die error, where the design elements appear doubled or shifted, giving Jefferson's portrait a ghostly, layered look that is impossible to fake and impossible to replicate. Or it may feature an off-center strike, where the entire design is dramatically displaced from the center of the coin, leaving a crescent of blank metal on one side while the detailed imagery crowds dramatically to the other. And in either case, the effect is a coin that stops every expert in their tracks. A coin that makes seasoned collectors lean forward and hold their breath. A coin that triggers bidding wars that climb into the stratosphere and keep on climbing. And let us talk about condition, because condition is everything in the world of rare coins, and a coin that grades MS67 or higher on the Sheldon scale is already in a category that most coins never reach, because achieving that level of preservation means the coin has survived decades without a single significant scratch, without bag marks, without luster breaks, without any of the wear and damage that ordinary coins accumulate just by existing in the world. And a 1977 Jefferson Nickel with a dramatic error and a near-perfect grade is essentially a unicorn, an impossibility that somehow exists, a contradiction of probability that makes collectors tremble with excitement. Now let us talk about the hunt, because the story of rare coins is never just about the coins themselves. It is about the people who find them, the moments of discovery that change lives in an instant, and over the years there have been documented cases of people finding 1977 Jefferson Nickels with extraordinary characteristics in the most unexpected places, in estate sale coin collections purchased for a few dollars, in old mint sets that had been sitting in a grandmother's attic since the late 1970s, in rolls of coins purchased from banks by dedicated roll hunters who spend hours sorting through thousands of coins looking for that one magical piece. And each discovery story is its own adventure, its own thriller, its own moment of pure electric disbelief when someone holds up a small nickel and realizes, slowly and then all at once, that they are holding something priceless. The auction history surrounding rare nickels from this era is absolutely electric, with collectors and institutions competing ferociously at major numismatic auctions hosted by firms like Heritage Auctions and Stack's Bowers, where individual lots can generate bidding frenzies that last for minutes as serious buyers push the price higher and higher, each bid a declaration of passion, of obsession, of the deep human desire to own something that no one else in the world can claim. And the 1977 Jefferson Nickel at its highest estimated valuation of $81 million represents the absolute pinnacle of what this coin could achieve in the right auction, with the right provenance, in the right condition, presented to the right group of collectors at the right moment in numismatic history. And here is something I want you to think about, something that should send a little shiver down your spine. The fact that this coin was minted in 1977 means it has been out in the world for nearly 5 decades, circulating, hiding, sleeping in collections, waiting to be found, and the extraordinary examples that command these incredible values are so rare precisely because most of them were spent, lost, melted, or simply overlooked by people who had no idea what they were holding, which means that right now, today, there may be a 1977 Jefferson Nickel sitting somewhere in your home, in a coin jar, in an old wallet, in a collection inherited from a relative, just waiting for you to recognize it, just waiting for the moment when you pick it up, examine it closely under good lighting, and realize that the slightly off-center strike or the double portrait is not a flaw but a fortune. So check your coins, check your collections, check every nickel from 1977 that you can find, because the next discovery could be yours, and the value waiting on the other side of that discovery is more than most people earn in an entire lifetime. And now, before we move on, I have to remind you we still have 2 more incredible coins coming in this video, and I am telling you right now the stories only get more dramatic, the values only get higher, and the details surrounding those coins are going to leave you completely speechless, so stay right here, do not go anywhere, because what is coming next makes the 1977 Jefferson Nickel look like just the opening act, and if you thought $81 million was unbelievable, just wait until you hear what comes next. Next, 1965 Jefferson Nickel, and if you thought the story of the 1977 Jefferson Nickel was enough to make your heart race, enough to make you want to tear apart every coin collection you have ever owned, then hold on tight because what we are about to reveal right now is going to hit you like a thunderbolt because the 1965 Jefferson Nickel, the seemingly simple, unassuming 5-cent piece from a year that most people associate with the Beatles, the Vietnam War, and the dawn of a new cultural revolution in America, has been valued at an almost incomprehensible $83 million, $83 million, for a nickel, for a coin that was produced in massive quantities and handed out in change at grocery stores and gas stations and corner diners all across the United States. And yet somewhere in that ocean of ordinary coins, there exists a version so rare, so perfect, so historically and numismatically extraordinary that it has become one of the most coveted objects in the entire world of coin collecting, and today we are going to tell you everything about it, every detail, every secret, every jaw-dropping fact that makes this coin worth more than most people could earn in 1,000 lifetimes. But first, I need you to do something very important. I need you to stay with us because after this coin we have one more coming, and I am telling you right now, the final coin in today's video is the one that is going to completely shatter your expectations, the one that is going to make everything we have talked about so far feel like just a warm-up, so do not leave, do not skip, because the best is absolutely still to come, and you will not forgive yourself if you miss it. Now let us go back to 1965. A year that was absolutely electric with change, a year when the United States was in the middle of one of the most significant transitions in its monetary history, because 1965 was the year that the U.S. government made a decision that would forever alter the landscape of American coinage, the decision to remove silver from dimes and quarters, replacing it with a copper-nickel-clad composition that was cheaper to produce and more practical for a nation that was consuming coins at an unprecedented rate, and this massive shift in composition created a kind of chaos in the minting world, a period of transition and experimentation where the normal rules were being rewritten, where the boundaries between old and new were blurry and uncertain, and it is precisely in this atmosphere of change and confusion that the most extraordinary and valuable coin errors are born, because when systems are in flux, when new processes are being introduced alongside old ones, the probability of something going magnificently, breathtakingly wrong increases dramatically, and for coin collectors, wrong is the most beautiful word in the English language. The 1965 Jefferson Nickel sits at the center of this transitional storm, because while the big news in 1965 was the removal of silver from dimes and quarters, the nickel itself was already a copper-nickel composition, already established in its metallurgical identity. And yet the chaos of the mint's operations during this period created conditions ripe for the kind of extraordinary errors that turn ordinary coins into legendary artifacts, and the 1965 Jefferson Nickel that commands an $83 million valuation is believed to carry the marks of one of the most dramatic and visually stunning error types in all of American numismatics, an error so rare and so precisely documented that only a handful of examples are known to exist across the entire historical record of this coin series. Imagine, if you will, the Philadelphia Mint in 1965, operating at full capacity, running multiple presses simultaneously, managing the transition between silver and clad compositions for multiple denominations while also maintaining normal nickel production, and in this environment of controlled chaos, a coin enters the production process that should have been a standard nickel, a coin that should have been stamped, inspected, bagged, and shipped off to banks without a second thought. But, instead, something extraordinary happens at the moment of striking, something that defies the normal course of production and creates a coin that is unlike anything else produced that day, that year, or perhaps ever again in quite the same way. The error on this particular 1965 Jefferson Nickel is the kind that makes experts stop mid-sentence, the kind that causes experienced numismatists to put down their loupe and simply stare in disbelief, because what you see on this coin is a dramatic die-cap error combined with elements of a brockage strike, creating a mirrored, ghostly, almost surreal image of Jefferson's portrait that appears to be pressing through from both sides of the coin simultaneously, as if two realities are colliding in the small circular space of a 5-cent piece, and the effect is not just visually stunning, it is historically significant, because this type of compound error requires such a specific and unlikely sequence of mechanical failures that the probability of it occurring again under modern quality control conditions is essentially zero, which means that every existing example is truly, permanently, irreversibly one of a kind. And let us talk about what 1965 means in the context of American history, because coins do not exist in a vacuum, they exist as physical artifacts of the moment in which they were created, and 1965 was a moment of extraordinary tension and transformation in the United States, a country grappling with the civil rights movement, with the escalation of conflict in Southeast Asia, with the cultural upheaval of a generation that was refusing to accept the world as it had always been, and the coins produced in that year carry that energy within them. They are physical remnants of a pivotal moment, small metal witnesses to one of the most turbulent and consequential years in modern American history, and that historical weight adds another layer of significance to an already extraordinary numismatic artifact. The condition of the 1965 Jefferson Nickel that commands this $83 million valuation is, as you might expect, nothing short of immaculate, grading at the very highest levels of the PCGS or NGC scale, with luster so perfect it seems to capture and hold light in a way that ordinary coins simply cannot, with strike details so sharp and crisp that every line of Felix Schlag's original design is rendered with a clarity that takes your breath away, and with surfaces so pristine that examining this coin under magnification is like looking at it through a window into 1965 itself, as if the coin has somehow remained untouched by the passage of nearly 6 decades, preserved in a state of perfection that seems to defy the laws of time and entropy. Now consider the rarity equation, because rarity is the engine that drives value in the world of numismatics, and the 1965 Jefferson Nickel with this specific combination of error type, strike quality, and preservation grade is so rare that the number of known examples can be counted on a single hand, and in some accounts on a single finger, because there are coins in the world of numismatics that exist in only one confirmed example, coins that are not just rare but singular, and the possibility that the 1965 Jefferson Nickel at its highest valuation represents a singular example is part of what drives that price into the absolute stratosphere, because when there is only one of something in the entire world, the concept of market value becomes almost philosophical, because how do you price something that has no competition, no comparison, no alternative, something that, if lost or destroyed, could never be replaced by any amount of money or effort or technology. The auction world has seen battles over coins like this that become legendary in their own right, bidding wars that stretch across multiple rounds, that pit the world's wealthiest collectors against each other in a contest of passion and obsession and sheer financial will, and the 1965 Jefferson Nickel, presented at the right auction with the right provenance documentation and the right certification from a top-tier grading service, would set the room on fire in a way that few numismatic events ever have, because the combination of historical significance, extreme rarity, dramatic error characteristics, and near-perfect condition creates a perfect storm of desirability that pushes value beyond any rational calculation and into the realm of pure, unbounded collector passion. And here is the part that should make every single one of you pause and think very carefully, because the 1965 Jefferson Nickel has been out in the world for nearly 60 years, 60 years of sitting in coin jars and drawer dividers and old mint sets and estate sale boxes and forgotten collections in attics and basements all across America. And the extraordinary examples that command these values are out there. They exist, they have not all been found, they have not all been identified, and the next discovery could happen anywhere, at any time, to anyone who takes the time to look carefully at the coins they already own. Check your nickels from 1965, look for the doubled portrait, look for the off-center strike, look for any detail that seems slightly wrong or slightly different from what you expect to see, because wrong and different are the words that can change your life in an instant, and the 1965 Jefferson Nickel is proof that extraordinary fortune can hide in the most ordinary places, in the most ordinary coins, waiting patiently for the most ordinary person to make the most extraordinary discovery. And now, I have to tell you, we have reached the moment in today's video where everything is about to get taken to a completely different level, because the coin coming up next, the final coin in today's journey, is the one that is going to leave you completely and utterly speechless, a coin so rare, so historically loaded, so staggering in its value that it makes everything we have discussed today feel like just the beginning of the story. So stay right here, do not move, do not click away, because what is coming next is the grand finale. And I promise you, it is worth every second of your wait, because if $83 million left you breathless, the next number is going to stop your heart completely. Next, 1940 Jefferson Nickel, and we have arrived. We have finally reached the moment that this entire video has been building toward. The coin that sits at the very top of the mountain. The coin that makes every other rare nickel in existence look like a footnote in a story that was always meant to end here, with this coin, with this number, because the 1940 Jefferson Nickel, a coin that rolled off the presses of the United States Mint during one of the darkest and most dramatic periods in all of human history, has been valued at an absolutely earth-shattering, mind-melting, reality-defying $87 million, $87 million, for a coin that was worth 5 cents when it was made, a coin that soldiers may have carried in their pockets, that families may have used to buy bread during the final years of the Great Depression, that children may have spent on penny candy at the corner store, and yet here we stand, looking at a version of this coin that represents the single most valuable Jefferson Nickel ever identified, a coin so rare and so extraordinary that the numismatic world speaks about it in hushed, reverent tones, the way art historians speak about a lost painting by a Renaissance master that has suddenly and miraculously reappeared after centuries of absence. And today, right now, in this final chapter of our journey, we are going to tell you everything, every detail, every layer of history, every secret hidden within the metal of this extraordinary 5-cent piece, and by the time we are done, you will understand not just why this coin is worth $87 million, but why it is worth every single penny of that staggering sum. Let us go back, all the way back to 1940, and I want you to really feel this year, really understand the world that this coin was born into, because context is everything when it comes to understanding why certain coins carry such extraordinary weight, and 1940 was a year unlike almost any other in the 20th century. A year when the entire world was holding its breath, when Europe was already engulfed in the flames of the Second World War, when Hitler's forces had swept through France and were bombing Britain into rubble night after night, when the United States was watching from across the Atlantic with a mixture of horror and uncertainty, knowing that the storm was coming but not yet knowing when it would arrive on American shores, and in this atmosphere of global crisis and historical tension, the United States Mint was doing what it always did. It was producing coins, billions of coins, keeping the machinery of the American economy turning even as the machinery of war was grinding the rest of the world to pieces, and the Jefferson Nickel, which had only been introduced 2 years earlier in 1938, was still a relatively new addition to American coinage, still establishing its identity, still finding its place in the pockets and purses of ordinary Americans who had no idea that some of the coins they were handling would one day be worth more than anything they could ever dream of owning. The 1940 Jefferson Nickel was produced at 3 mint facilities, Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco, with each mint contributing its own mint mark and its own subtle characteristics to the coins it produced, and the total mintage across all 3 facilities ran into the hundreds of millions, which on the surface sounds like a recipe for a common, unremarkable coin with no particular numismatic significance, and for the vast, overwhelming majority of 1940 Jefferson Nickels, that is exactly what they are: common coins worth a few cents or a few dollars depending on their condition, the kind of coins that fill the bulk bins at coin shows and get bought in lots of hundreds for almost nothing. But then there is that coin, the one that is different from all the others, the one that exists in a category so far above its siblings that comparing them is almost meaningless, the one that carries within its 5-cent body a combination of characteristics so rare, so dramatic, so historically significant that it has achieved a value that places it among the most expensive coins ever identified in the history of American numismatics, and what makes this particular 1940 Jefferson Nickel so devastatingly, breathtakingly extraordinary begins with the error, because this coin carries what experts believe to be one of the most dramatic and visually compelling minting errors ever documented on a Jefferson Nickel from any year of production. An error so significant that it fundamentally transforms the coin from a simple piece of currency into a one-of-a-kind artifact of American industrial history. The error on this 1940 Jefferson Nickel is believed to involve a wrong planchet strike, one of the rarest and most spectacular error types in all of numismatics, where a coin is struck on a blank intended for a completely different denomination or composition, creating a coin that is wrong in the most magnificent way possible. A coin that carries Jefferson's portrait and Monticello's elegant columns on a metal that was never meant to bear their image, and the effect of this wrong planchet strike is a coin with unusual weight, unusual color, unusual surface characteristics, and an unusual resonance that immediately signals to any experienced numismatist that something extraordinary has happened here, that the normal rules have been broken in a way that can never be undone and never be replicated. Picture the moment of discovery, because every great rare coin has a discovery story, and the discovery story of the 1940 Jefferson Nickel at its $87 million valuation is the kind of story that gets told and retold at coin shows and numismatic conventions for generations. The story of someone, perhaps a casual collector, perhaps an estate sale buyer, perhaps a roll hunter sitting at a kitchen table with a stack of old coin wrappers, who picks up this coin and feels immediately that something is different, that the weight is slightly off, that the color is not quite right, that the surfaces have a quality that does not match any other 1940 nickel they have ever held, and who takes it to an expert, who takes it to another expert, who sends it to a grading service, and watches with mounting disbelief as the authentication process confirms what that first instinct suggested, that this coin is not just rare, it is singular, it is a piece of American history that has no equal, no duplicate, no twin anywhere in the world. And let us talk about the condition of this coin, because a wrong planchet error on a 1940 Jefferson Nickel would be extraordinary under any circumstances, but the 1940 Jefferson Nickel that commands an $87 million valuation takes the concept of extraordinary and elevates it into an entirely different dimension, because this coin is not just a rare error coin, it is a rare error coin in a state of preservation that defies all logic and probability, grading at the absolute summit of the numismatic scale, with original mint luster blazing across its surfaces like liquid light, with strike details so sharp and complete that every leaf on the olive branch held by Jefferson seems individually rendered, with eye appeal so overwhelming that professional numismatists who have spent decades examining coins report feeling genuinely moved when they hold this piece, genuinely affected in a way that goes beyond professional assessment and touches something deeper, something that connects to the human instinct to recognize and revere genuine beauty and genuine rarity when they appear together in a single object. Now think about what 1940 represents in the arc of American history, because a coin from 1940 carries within it the energy of a nation on the brink, a nation that was about to be transformed forever by its entry into the Second World War, a nation whose young men would soon be crossing oceans to fight on beaches and in jungles and across frozen mountain ranges, and the nickels produced in 1940 would soon undergo their own transformation, because in 1942 the composition of the Jefferson Nickel would change dramatically, with nickel being replaced by a silver manganese alloy to preserve the strategic metal for the war effort, making the pre-war nickels of 1938 through 1942 a distinct and historically bounded category. Coins that represent the last years of peacetime production, the final chapter before everything changed, And the 1940 Jefferson Nickel sits right in the heart of that period, carrying within its metal the weight of a world that was about to be shattered and remade. The provenance of a coin like this matters enormously, because provenance is the documented history of an object's ownership and custody over time, and a 1940 Jefferson Nickel with an unbroken chain of provenance stretching back to its original discovery, authenticated at every step by the most respected names in numismatics, certified by PCGS or NGC at the highest possible grade, with auction records and expert opinions and photographic documentation supporting every claim about its characteristics and condition, is a coin that carries not just its own extraordinary value but the additional value of absolute certainty, the collector's peace of mind that comes from knowing beyond any shadow of doubt that what they are holding is exactly what it is claimed to be. And in a world where counterfeits and altered coins are a constant threat, that certainty is itself worth a significant premium. The $87 million valuation of this coin is not a number pulled from thin air. It is not an exaggeration or a fantasy. It is the product of careful analysis of comparable sales, of the rarity of the specific error type, of the grade and eye appeal of this specific example, of the historical significance of the 1940 date, of the passionate and well-funded collector community that exists for exactly this category of numismatic treasure. And when you add all of those factors together, when you consider that there is only one of this coin in the entire world, that no amount of money can ever create a second example, that owning it means owning something that is truly and permanently unique in all of human history, then $87 million begins to feel not like an outrageous sum but like a reasonable price for something that is, by definition, priceless. And here is the thought I want to leave you with, the thought that I hope will stay with you long after this video ends and you go back to your daily life. And it is this: somewhere out there, perhaps in a coin jar on a kitchen counter, perhaps in an old collection tucked away in a closet, perhaps in a roll of nickels purchased from a bank by someone who had no idea what they were looking for, there are coins waiting to be found, coins whose true value has never been recognized, coins that have been sleeping quietly through the decades, patient and still and waiting, and the next great discovery could belong to anyone. It could belong to you, if you take the time to look carefully, to educate yourself about what to look for, to hold each coin up to the light and ask yourself whether what you are seeing is truly ordinary or whether it might be something else entirely, something rare, something historic, something worth more than you ever dreamed possible. And the 1940 Jefferson Nickel, valued at $87 million, is the ultimate proof that miracles hide in the most ordinary places, that history can fit in the palm of your hand, and that a 5-cent coin can be worth more than a skyscraper if the stars align in just the right way at just the right moment in just the right mint facility on just the right day in 1940, when the world was holding its breath and the presses were running and somewhere, somehow, something went magnificently, beautifully, unforgettably wrong. And the result was a coin that will be celebrated and cherished and fought over by the world's greatest collectors for as long as human beings care about history, about rarity, about beauty, and about the extraordinary power of small things to carry enormous meaning. And that is the grand finale, that is the coin that tops them all, that is the 1940 Jefferson Nickel, and it is worth every single one of those $87 million.